Okay, all right. Good morning. I am FrancisMengote. This is my GIST 909 presentation titled Paradise on Fire, 2023 Maui Lahaina Wildfire Case Study. The historic town of Lahaina is located west of the biggest island in the county of Maui. Previously the capital of Hawaii, Lahaina had been the center of the whaling industry before it turned its trade to agriculture. On August 8, 2023, in the middle of the severe drought and high winds, a devastating wildfire decimated the quiet town, destroying most of its iconic centers along with its rich history. This disaster took the lives of 97 people and over $5.5 billion in total damage. The goal of this case study is simple: to educate. There are multiple sources, such as news articles, blogs, and government reports on the wildfire that devastated Maui. However, most, if not all, these articles only talk about a specific topic, such as how the fire started, how does this affect the county, how much damage was done. This case study aims to answer those questions in one article. Here's the timeline of what happened. On August 8th, 2023, on Tuesday, at 12:22 a.m., the first fire was reported near Kula. Evacuation was initiated within a few hours. At 6:37 a.m., the second fire reported in Lahaina, causing intermittent power outages. Shane True, a Lahaina resident, reported hearing splinters from a utility pole, followed by a flash and buzzing sound. At 3:30 p.m., strong winds pushed smoke and amber, causing reignitions in Lahaina. At 3:40 p.m., residents started to flee. A downed telephone pole and car accidents blocked the eastern exit, forcing residents to head west. 4:29 p.m., Hawaii Emergency Management Agency posted on social media about the immediate evacuation of the area. Unfortunately, most of the residents still have no power and no cellular service and have no way to check. Emergency sirens are not activated. 4:45 p.m., Lahaina bypass remained closed due to fire. The south exit was closed so that service crews could work on downed power lines, forcing residents to head north and causing a bottleneck in Front Street. Between 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., residents stuck on traffic on Front Street were forced to abandon cars and jump into the waters. 7:30 p.m., northern Lahaina started to catch on fire. And on Wednesday, August 9, 2023, the aftermath, 97 deaths were confirmed and more than 2,000 buildings were destroyed by the fire. Search and rescue operations continues. Here's the workflow I used for this case study. The idea I had was about making a case study on the wildfire that happened in Lahaina in August 2023. Once the topic was determined, data gathering was the next step. These data were collected from ArcGIS online portal, Hawaii GIS program, and NASA. Once data is collected, the analysis can be done. For this case study, I chose to do network analysis on the effectiveness of the emergency services near Lahaina, cost analysis on the property damage sustained during the wildfire, and a visual analysis on the possible cause of the wildfire. I will talk more about this analysis in the sections below. Finally, visualizations was done using ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Story Map. For the analysis performed in this case study, different data were required. The Lahaina fire boundary contains the damage from the wildfire and served as the boundary for this case study. Road data was used for network analysis. Parcel data was used to differentiate between the property types of the buildings in Lahaina and serve as a value estimate for said properties. Finally, the land use, land cover data was used in the visual analysis to determine the fire susceptibility based on the materials present in the area. The basis on why I chose this analysis is on the question I formulated about the wildfire. For the network analysis, how effective is the emergency response and why was there a delay in the evacuation? The data required to perform a network analysis service area are the road data and a starting point. In this analysis, emergency service areas, the first thing I did was to make a network dataset using roads layer with the help of the network dataset and name it Maui ND or the network data. Once the network dataset is created, it's pretty straightforward. I use the service area option, change the mode to drive time, direction to away from facilities, and cutoffs to 5, 10, and 15 minutes. Oh, there seems to be some. There you go. As you can see on this map, the fire station located north of Lahaina would take less than 10 minutes to get to the rest of the town. However, in bigger disasters, a single fire station would not be able to handle this problem. Another glaring problem is that there is only one way out of the town, is on Honoapilan Highway. As you can see on this map, it's the blue line. This caused some of the residents to flee off-road towards the mountain, and those stuck in town to jump into the water. Even including all the fire stations around the island would not help. As already mentioned, there was only two ways to get in and out of town, and the closest fire station north of Lahaina would not make it in less than 10 minutes. Once again, as you can see, it's unfortunate, but there's only this roads, which is the highway that goes in and out of town. So even if the other fire station responded, it would be too late by that time. For the cost analysis, the question I asked was how much was the cost of the property damage? The cost analysis is done mostly with database manipulation. The parcel data that I obtained from the Hawaii GIS program contains land value and building value. However, the parcel data includes the whole state of Hawaii. To ensure that only Lahaina is included, I use the clip tool and the Lahaina boundary as the selector. Once the parcel data is limited to the town of Lahaina, the calculation can be calculated per the parcel by adding a new field, which I named total value. Once the field is created, the calculate field tool was used to determine the value. This was done by just simple math. Honestly, it's land value plus building value equals total value. Once the total value per parcel is calculated, the sum of all property value is needed. This was achieved using the summary statistics tool and selecting sum. The summary statistics tool added all the value of the same field, in this case, total value. Based on the analysis, a total of 2,363 parcels were affected by the fire, of which 973 were residential properties. The total cost of damage to properties was $2.86 billion. For the visual analysis, how did the fire spread? For this analysis, I used the land use data that was also available in the Hawaii GIS program website. Like the cost analysis, I used the clip tool to only include the land use data for Lahaina. Once this is done, I change the symbology per land use for easier visual interpretation. First step is to find out where the potential start of fire. Based on eyewitness accounts, some down power lines on the eastern residential area started the fire, which is depicted here on the blue tint. The ignition in the eastern residential area quickly grew due to high wind that reached up to 60 miles per hour. As seen on the map, the town is surrounded by croplands and pasture. At the time of the wildfire, Hawaii was experiencing extreme drought. A small spark is the only ignition needed, as there were plenty of fuel sources in the form of dried vegetation. Although some reports suggest that the winds are due to Hurricane Dora, a forecast by NASA suggests that the hurricane at the time of the wildfire was too far away to affect the winds, approximately 600 miles to the south. As you can see here, the low pressure systems are usually the hurricanes, which is depicted here on the south. Instead, they have suggested that the high pressure system around Hawaii at the time caused the high winds, coupled by the fact that Lahaina is on the leeward side of the mountain. meaning that the wind would always come from the other side, which is the east side of the mountain from Lahaina, moving towards Lahaina, which is the west side. The next are just some points of interest I found while doing some visual analysis on satellite imagery over Lahaina. So the start of the fire, based on the reports, this might be the possible location. Is over here. Oh, as the speculation is around this area. A little bit here on some commercial buildings, you can actually see what seems to be like relief efforts happening. There's a line of cars going towards a group of tents, what it looks like. And just this is the northern residential area. Some of the buildings actually survived. Unfortunately, most of the buildings still have damage, either due to smoke or some lingering hits around the area. The emergency service, which is the police station, the fire station, is over here, as you can see, has been untouched. So they were able to actually respond. Unfortunately, there's just not enough people to do it. And the last thing I want to show is the historic downtown, Lahaina. Um, this is the before image. As you can see, this is the banyan tree, which is one of the biggest banyan tree in Lahaina. The harbor and the Pioneer Inn. And as you can see, this is the aftermath. I want to show that this is the front street where people started to flee and jump into the water is around this area. This the mark up my pointer right here is connects all the way to the highway to the exit going up south and north. And this one here is just a little bit closer look to the actual the banyan tree in Lahaina was one of the biggest banyan trees in the world, spanning 1.94 acres and rising more than 60 feet. This tree has been a noticeable landmark in Lahaina. Originally gifted by missionaries from India, the banyan tree was planted by then Sheriff of Lahaina, William Owen Smith, on April 24, 1873, which means that it just turned 151 years old a couple days ago. As of writing this case study, signs of recovery have been noted as new leaves were seen sprouting around the tree. The Pioneer Inn, distinguished for its plantation era architecture. The Pioneer Inn was built in 1901 by George Allen Freeland. The Pioneer Inn debuted as a first-class destination for travelers passing through the islands. It is also the first lodging open in Lahaina. Up until the wildfire, the Pioneer Inn was still in operation and gave guests a taste of life in Lahaina at the turn of the century. The Lahaina Harbor, located at what once known as Lahaina Landing, the harbor was once an important stop for the whaling fleet when whaling was one of the island's primary industries. Before the disaster, the harbor served as a place to board excursions and protect seafaring vehicles from rough seas. The waters around Lahaina served as an escape for people who were not able to escape town by land. The Maui wildfire is one of the more devastating disasters that happened in Hawaii, with 97 people dead and over $5 million in total cost of damages. This case study examined three aspects of the Lahaina wildfire. First, the effectiveness of emergency services closest to Lahaina. As Lahaina is a small town, a single firehouse seems to be enough. Unfortunately, in a bigger disaster, it was not. Other emergency service providers around the island will respond. However, most are more than 15 minutes away from the wildfire. The second aspect was the cost of the damage. Using parcel information, the calculated value of the land and building was approximately $8 billion in damages in Lahaina alone. Finally, a visual analysis by classifying land use and wind direction determined, using logic, how the fire had spread through Lahaina. The town of Lahaina is surrounded by cropland and pastures. Unfortunately, due to the drought, they only serve as fuel to the fire. Although the cause of damage was severe, properties can be replaced. The same thing can be said for the lives lost. The only thing we can do as a country is support our fellow humans in this time of disaster. It is also our responsibility to get ourselves educated on how to prevent these kinds of disasters from happening again. And if it does, be prepared enough to know how to protect ourselves and our loved ones. So that concludes my case study. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions I can address?